The final and most expensive DLC for Middle-earth: Shadow of War dropped earlier this week, along with other game updates, which might have you wondering if you should jump back into this game, or if you continue to play, if you should go out and actually spend the money in order to get it. Now, after playing many hours, I had some thoughts that I wanted to share. Now, before I do that, I wanted to say Shadow of War is a great game. It has amazing characters, it has an amazing story, and it has one of my favorite things in games so far, which is the Nemesis system. Now, having said that, I was very disappointed in this DLC. Now, that doesn't necessarily surprise me because the other DLC that's been released for this game has kind of been mediocre. Now, going into this, I was already having low expectations, but I did not expect to be disappointed further from my low expectations. So, starting off, I noticed immediately that the story just it was lacking. They introduce a new character, Circa, which falls flat. He's a character that you don't really necessarily feel anything for. I mean, he has a couple of moments where you kind of have a feeling of understanding of where they might have been trying to go, but in general, you don't really necessarily feel for that character. And the thing is that this is supposed to be about Baranor, and it's supposed to be a DLC about Baranor. And the thing is that you kind of don't really get more of Baranor. It seems like it's mainly about Circa and just weirdness, and it doesn't make sense. Now, the only thing that was a saving grace for me was the fact that they incorporated Torvin. Now, the thing is that he is my favorite character of the main game because of the fact that he's the comic relief. He's the comic relief in a game of seriousness, in a game of everybody killing each other, blood, guts, and gore. And I find that hilarious. Now, the thing is that I didn't like the way that they incorporated him into this DLC, but hey, it's my favorite character, so what can I say? I'm biased. Now, as far as the gameplay goes, I thought that maybe that's going to win me over because I like the original gameplay, I like the original mechanics. Now, I start playing it and I feel this clunkiness. Now I'm thinking maybe because I've been playing God of War, maybe I just need to adjust. So that happens occasionally. So I start playing it and then I'm playing it and then I'm playing it and I finish the DLC and I'm just like this still felt clunky. This is weird. This doesn't make sense. And I jump back into the main game because part of this DLC is the fact that you get a new region. So I jump into the main game to do a fortress assault to get some of my Uruks and just take them out there and basically kick ass. Now, I jump into it and I'm I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. All the mechanics are great. I'm like maybe I finally adjusted. Holy cow. It took a few hours and I finally adjusted. All right, so I can jump back into this DLC and I can go in there and it's going to be a lot better of an experience. So I jump back into the DLC and I get back to that clunky feeling again. So I immediately have this realization. It's not me. It's this DLC. It's the fact that I'm controlling Baranor, and this DLC just makes him move awkwardly, and it has new mechanics that kind of weren't completely worked out. It feels like it, and the thing that sucks is that it feels like it wasn't completely worked out, and the fact that you had to wait so long for it to come out just makes it all that much more work, or all that much worse, I guess. And the thing is that they're like the one of the clunkiest feelings was the this thing that kind of like the bat claw, I would say. Now you kind of go out and you use it, and the thing is that it doesn't necessarily always work when you're using it. At least what I've experienced, and when you're using it, you can't get hit by an enemy because if you get hit by an enemy, a glitch happens or a bug happens when it goes out, and when it goes out, it has a sound effect. These chains, and the thing is that it goes out, you get hit by an enemy, and it stays out. It doesn't retract, and that sound effect just keeps playing over and over again. And the thing is that if you've gotten hit by an enemy, you're gonna have to fight that enemy most likely, or else if you try to use it again, then you're probably gonna get hit by an enemy again, and then it's gonna start the bug all over. So as you're fighting this enemy, this chain is just going through people, and it brings you out of that, and not out of the game, out of the experience, and not only that, it's annoying. It's annoying to have to hear that same sound effect play over and over again until you finally hit the button in order to send it out again, which it doesn't retract and then send out. It just gets sent out again because the other chain just disappears. Which doesn't obviously that makes no sense whatsoever. But whatever. So that there's that. Not that wasn't the only Batman thing that they kind of incorporated in here. They have a parachute that kind of works a lot like the Batman's cape. And the funny thing is that this game already had enough people saying that they incorporated mechanics like Batman in the fighting style. So now they have to incorporate tools and other other traits that you can use that move you more like Batman. And on top of that, you're now mortal, which is like Batman, which brings way too many similarities. Now, as far as the being mortal thing and the permadeath, is the fact that it removes the nemesis system. It removes it completely, and that's one of the main things that people loved about this game. That's one of the main things people talked about. So it doesn't make sense that they would want to remove it. Now, it makes sense that Baranor is mortal, but maybe they could have made it so that he wakes up in this in a medical tent or something in one of the areas or something like that. Maybe they could have incorporated that into the story somehow in order to keep the Nemesis system going, in order for you to have the Nemesis system work in the DLC, because that would have been a lot better of an experience as opposed to having to restart everything from the beginning and playing the DLC again. Now, I think the one of the things that they try to do with that was that they try to create a point system, but that point system is not necessarily clear. So when you start over at the very end, you end up getting a point, and you get points, and based on those points, you get one of the trophies, and based on those trophies, you get a new add-on to these add-ons that you can add to his. Basically, you get new add-ons that you get to add into the game, and that makes the DLC run a little easier. Now, with that, the thing that sucks about that point system though is the thing it's not clear. They don't have an exact number of points that you need to make. They don't share that with you ever. And the thing is that with all the things that you do in the game, they don't necessarily have a layout of how many points certain things win you. And while you're playing the DLC, you have no idea how many points you have. So you might end up finishing the DLC beforehand and then figuring out that you didn't make enough points to get to the next trophy, which they didn't tell you how much you needed to make, which makes you have to play it again and go again, and then you might not get to it because of the fact that you didn't do enough things because they didn't tell you, and then you get put in this cycle, and it I feel like it would make it extremely irritating for the player. So the player might not want to go and replay it because of the fact that it's that irritating. Now, if you love the game and everything, obviously you're gonna go back and try to get the highest score that you can. But if you're going for like points explicitly because you probably want to get the trophy for getting gold in that, then you need to kind of know the points in order for you to get there, or you need to keep playing until you just magically end up getting the right number of points, or magically end up doing the right amount of things in order for you to get those points. And it's just, yeah, that really bothers me. And as far as things that I liked about this DLC, I liked the upgrades. Now the upgrades, they kind of had two different upgrade things. They had Torvin's upgrades, and then they had the regular upgrades. So the regular upgrades, they get reset every single time that you have to reset the DLC. But once you get the Torvin upgrades, which you have to go around and look for based on these drawings, you basically get them and you keep them, which kind of just weird. But it's weird how they brought in Torvin in the first place anyway. So I mean, whatever. As far as the regular upgrades, I like the fact that you can get an upgrade, and instead of having to choose one of the three extra boosts to the upgrade, you're able to end up getting all three, as opposed to like the main game, where you're only able to choose one of the boosts. Now, for most of the skills, it makes sense why they were easily able to do that, because of the fact that there are simple things like, oh, you get to add one more healing thing. You could add 10% more off of these mercenaries that you're able to hire, or you get to add like a few more a little bit more of ammo in order to these different projectiles that you're able to shoot out. which, like I said, it makes sense why they did that. But one of the main things that I thought that was cool is the fact that you can have three bodyguards as opposed to one, like you have in the main game, which makes it that much cooler because then you're walking around with your own gang, like some of the Uruks in the main game, which it's freaking cool. I mean, in my personal opinion, that's cool as hell. The so yeah, I mean that's one of the main things that I loved about it. I think they should try to incorporate that a little bit into the main game if they ever come out with another one. Now the way the story ended, I doubt they will. But I mean, that would have been cool to see in the main game. Being able to, I mean, I know that they wouldn't be able to do it with all the skills because of the fact that there's obviously only so many buttons on the control, and some of the upgrades would have kind of been tricky to kind of work with. So I understand that. But there's certain upgrades that I mean I'm just like, dude, like you can add all three. It doesn't make sense why you have to switch between, because sometimes you might want to use them in the middle of something that you're doing, and then you have to hit the pause screen and then go switch it, and that gets irritating in itself. Now, it's not to say that you're not going to be interrupted in this DLC in order to pause the menu in order to add some upgrades, because you really are, especially if you're playing on a Gravewalker, because as you collect these things in the middle of a fight, you're going to add them in order to increase your chances of beating these other difficult enemies in order to basically guarantee you getting past and not having to worry about getting killed and having to restart the whole thing over again. So, there are some irritating moments like that, but in general, it's a lot better. So, after all, if you want to get this DLC and deal with all that, be my guest. Honestly, if you play this game enough, then maybe the new fortress in itself might be a good addition or a good reason to get the game just because of that. Because you get the new region and the new fortress is kind of cool in my opinion. It has this new layout, or this layout that's a lot different, or not a lot more different than any of the other layouts that have slight differences. Or yeah, it's nice to kind of get a new fortress after kind of playing those other fortresses so many times, and kind of getting a new fortress that you're able to experience a little difference in that game. But yeah, I mean those were my thoughts. If you haven't checked out my other videos, go ahead and check them out. Thanks a lot. Peace.